Hi. Before I begin, I'm going to do a series of just short segments, just talking about various things in the Bible. Today on Bible Talk, I want to talk about what was the forbidden fruit. What was the fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil? What is the forbidden fruit? I'll go over this quickly. In the beginning of the Bible, in Genesis, we see God made man. His duty was to take care of the Garden of Eden. And in the Garden of Eden, God puts the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And this tree bears fruit. The Lord forbade them to eat from this tree. They could eat anything in the garden, but not from this tree. However, Satan tricked them into thinking it was okay to go against God and eat from that tree. The result of that got Adam and Eve kicked out of the Garden of Eden for good. God also made a cherubim, which is an angel, with 4 faces and a flaming sword to guard the Garden of Eden, because he didn't want nobody else going back into the Garden of Eden and eating from the tree. A lot of people have this idea or speculation that the fruit from the tree was an apple. This idea can also derive from Greece. As we see in Greek mythology, apples represent immortality because of the power they grant when eaten. You hear like an apple a day keeps the doctor away. It could be something like that. Greek was one of the first languages to translate from the Bible. That's why we go back to Greek words, because it's the closest to the Hebrew language. So it makes sense that some translations could have picked up on these mythologies with everything. The Romans and Greek picking up on these translations and kind of mixing them into how it translated. If the apple symbolically means immortality to the Greeks, then of course it makes sense the apple was the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Also, the idea that the forbidden fruit was an apple may have originated from a Latin pun or misunderstanding when the Bible was translated from Hebrew to Latin. So it could have been mistranslated right there when they translated it into Latin. The Latin word for apple is malum. I might be saying that wrong, and I'm sorry, which is similar to the Latin word malum, which means evil. Since the forbidden fruit caused the fall of man and expulsion from paradise, it could be terrible, malum, or evil, making apple a likely candidate. Other fruit people think are a pomegranate. According to ancient Iranian Christianity, pomegranates were found in the Garden of Eden and were the forbidden fruit. The Quran also mentions pomegranate in the Garden of Paradise as good creation of God. Fig, another early favorite, along with grapes. In Judaism, the forbidden fruit is traditionally depicted as a fig because of Genesis 3:7 in the Bible, which describes Adam and Eve using fig leaves to cover themselves after eating the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. However, if you read in the Bible, Genesis 3:22-24, and the Lord God said, "The man has now become like one of us, knowing good and evil. He must not be allowed to reach out of his hand and to also take from the tree of life and eat and live forever. So the Lord God banished him from the Garden of Eden to work the grounds from which he had been taken. After he drove the man out, he placed on the east side of the Garden of Eden a cherubim with a flaming sword flashing back and forth to guard the way of the tree of life. You will see the Lord has banished them from the Garden of Eden, so they cannot take from the tree of life and eat and live forever. In my theory, I don't think we even know what the fruit of the tree was, or even know what it even looks like. I don't think anyone living now knows what it looks like. I think the fruit is nothing like we've ever seen. The Garden of Eden was guarded by the cherubim with a flaming sword after man was banished from it. Then the great flood washed the whole entire earth. So if the Garden of Eden was in fact on earth, then it's either submerged underwater or not on earth at all. Some translations refer to the Garden of Eden as paradise. Paradise can be described as heaven. In a parable of Jesus, we could see that. There was a rich man who was dressed in purple and fine linen and lived in luxury every day. At his gate was a beggar named Lazarus, covered with sores and longing to eat what fell from the rich man's table. Even the dogs came and licked his sores. The time came when the beggar died, and the angels carried him to Abraham's side, which the rich man also died and was buried, and he was in Hades. And they called the side that Lazarus went to, they call that side paradise. And the side that the rich man went to, they call that Hades or hell. Where he was tormented, he looked up and saw Abraham far away with Lazarus by his side. The way that it was before Jesus ascended up, there was a place in the center of the earth which was split into two different departments. One was called paradise, where all the prophets and God's people went, and one was called Hades, which was hell for the disobedient people. Also, while on the cross before his death, Jesus said to the thief that rebuked the other criminal on the cross, in Luke 23:43, Jesus answered him, "Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise." Was the Garden of Eden or paradise actually heaven before the fall of man? Because there was no sin until Adam and Eve ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. With all that being said, if the Garden of Eden was indeed paradise, the fruit wouldn't exist here on earth, especially when God didn't want man to eat from the tree of knowledge and good and evil. The only way for us to enter the kingdom of heaven is through the blood of the Son of God, Jesus Christ. That concludes today's Bible talk. Let me know what you think.